Today's Biblical Hebrew Grammar lecture is on plural nouns, yesh, ein, and attached pronouns. Let's begin by looking at plural nouns. This is the chart of nouns that we've seen so far, only the singular forms. We have seen that nouns have inherent gender, meaning that any noun is either masculine or feminine, and that nouns inflect for number, meaning that most nouns will have both a singular form and a plural form. And we've seen that the endings of these nouns are an indicator for the gender and number of that noun. We've seen that a default masculine singular noun like sus has no distinct ending. A default feminine singular noun like para will end in kametz he, sometimes in tav. And now let's look at the plural forms. The default masculine plural noun like susim will end in im, and a default feminine plural noun like parot will end in ot. Note that these endings are an accurate indicator of the number of a noun, meaning that a singular noun will either not have an ending or will end in kametz he or tav. And every plural noun will end in either im or ot. But while the endings are an accurate indicator for number, they're not necessarily an accurate indicator for the gender of that noun. We've seen many irregular nouns. Here's the word for sword, cherev, charavot. Here's the word for woman, isha, nashim. Here's the word for stone, even, avanim. All of these are irregular feminine nouns, and they come in all kinds of varieties. Cherev looks masculine in the singular, but feminine in the plural. Isha looks feminine in the singular and masculine in the plural. And even actually looks masculine in both the singular and the plural. We've also seen several irregular masculine nouns. This is the word for table, shulchan, shulchanot, chair, kisei, kisot, and name, shem, shemot. Pretty much the irregular masculine nouns are always this variety. The singular looks masculine, but they take an ot ending, which looks feminine. Now, for any irregular noun, if either the singular or the plural form would lead you astray in predicting the gender of the noun, we indicate that noun's gender on the back of the flashcard. But these irregular nouns and their gender, it's not something that we expect you to memorize, it's just something that we want you to be aware of. And plural adjectives. Here's the chart of adjectives that we've seen, just the singular forms. We've seen that adjectives inflect for both gender and for number. So here's the adjective for big. And we've seen that the endings of adjectives are totally regular. They're like the endings on nouns, but without exceptions. So every single masculine singular adjective has no distinct ending. Every single feminine singular adjective ends in kametz he, and you can predict the plural endings. Every single masculine plural adjective ends in im. Every single plural feminine adjective ends in ot. Let's look at some examples. We're going to have 4 pairs of sentences. For each pair, the top sentence will use an attributive adjective. The bottom pair will use a predicate adjective. Remember, for attributive adjective, the adjective is always after the noun it modifies, and the article agrees. For predicate, the bottom sentence, the adjective will always lack the article. So, if you wanted to command a guy to pick up a small cow, you would say, sa para ketana. The noun is feminine singular, so the adjective is feminine singular, always ending in kametz he. If you wanted to say the cow is small, ha para ketana. If you wanted to command a guy to throw the big sheep, you would say ha shlech et ha keves ha gadol. Masculine singular noun, masculine singular adjective. Or if you want to say the sheep is big, ha keves gadol. If you wanted to say the good women are on the table, ha nashim ha tovot, al hashulchan. A feminine plural noun, even though it ends in im, so you get the feminine plural adjective, which will always end in ot. Or if you want to just say the women are good, hanashim tovot. And finally, if you want to say the men are on big chairs, ha'anashim al kisot gedolim, a masculine plural noun, even though it ends in ot, so you get the masculine plural adjective, which always ends in im. Or, the chairs are big, ha-kisot gedolim. Here we have yesh and ein. Yesh corresponds to there is, and it's used for predicating the existence of an object. So in number 9, if you want to say there is bread on the table, you would say yesh lechem al hashulchan. And ein means there is not, and it's used for negating a statement like in 9. So all you do is you switch ein in for yesh, and you have ein lechem al hashulchan. And number 11, you can ask about the existence of an object. Doing so, hayesh halechem al hashulchan. So here, ha is that prefix question mark. It marks a yes-no question. And notice here that you can have the article, hayesh halechem is the bread on the table. Now, I just point out here that when you're stating the existence of an object or negating it, typically you'll be doing it with an indefinite noun. If you ask about the existence of an object, typically the object will be definite. It'll have the article. This is no deep truth about Hebrew language. It's just pointing out a tendency in how we humans communicate. The negative adverb. An adverb is a word that describes a verb. Here we'll look at an extended usage of ein. So number 12 here, ein is used to negate a predicate adjective. So the chairs are not big. Ein ha-kisot gedolim. So you're not negating the existence of the noun, the chairs. The chairs exist. It's just that the chairs that exist are not big. And number 13, we have ein is used to negate a participial statement. So Yoshev here is the participle sitting. You can say Moses is not sitting. Ein Moshe Yoshev. Now, for negating verbs, you use ein to negate adjectives and participles. For other kind of verbs, you're going to use a different adverb, lo. This is just about ein, and it makes sense that you negate both adjectives and participles because a participle is a verbal adjective, remember from last lesson. Now, ein is usually the first word in the statement, but sometimes you can see it second. So 13 and 14 are the same, but you get ein and Moshe switched around. So 14 reads Moshe ein Yoshev, and you can say that. It's just that typically ein will be the first word in the clause, but it doesn't have to be. Here we have dual nouns. This is the noun chart that you've seen so far, and I promise what I add here will finish out the noun chart. What we've seen with the plural endings, im and ot, is that they mark more than one of something, so it could be 2, could be 200. The dual ending marks specifically 2 of something. So you can have a default masculine dual noun, susaim is exactly 2 horses, and it ends in im. A default feminine dual noun, like prataim, ends in a time and means exactly 2 cows. Now, the difference here between im and a time is not necessarily masculine versus feminine. Actually, what it is any feminine singular noun that does end in kametz he will end in this, a time. The tav here will be switched in for the he. Any other noun will end in im. Now, if you didn't catch that, here note that whether or not you have this tav, all dual nouns end in im. Even here, im. and this I'm is a diphthong. So you have the vowel sound ah, and you just glide directly into the vowel sound e. I'm. And that's the dual ending marking exactly two of something. Let's look at some facts. One is that this dual ending is very rare in Hebrew. It does not apply to verbs. Verbs do not have dual endings. They're either singular or plural. And adjectives and participles don't have a dual ending. They're just singular or plural. It only applies to nouns, and it only applies really in usage to a select group of nouns. So pretty much only paired body parts, things that always come in two. So eyes, ears, hands, feet, etc. And if you describe a dual noun with an adjective, you're going to use the plural adjective form. So two big eyes is einayim gedolot. Now, a fun fact about these dual endings for the paired body parts is every single paired body part that has a dual ending is a feminine noun. So that's why you have einayim gedolot. So they're going to be marked as feminine on the back of the flashcards. Again, nothing that you need to memorize, remember, but something that could be helpful to be aware of. Here we have preposition la and attached pronouns. Here's a chart of the attached pronouns. I say attached, it's marked here by this hyphen saying that this pronoun, e, attaches to the end of some word. So these pronouns always appear as suffixes written at the end of words. A quick comparison in English. Last week I said that there are three forms of the pronoun in English. You have subject pronouns, object pronouns, and possessive pronouns. Hebrew basically has two forms of pronouns. Independent pronouns that you can just say by themselves. They appear as their own words. They're always the subject pronouns. We saw the chart last week. Ani, ata, at, hu, he, the singular forms. And then here you have the attached pronouns. And what they attach to will determine what function they take, whether subject, object, or possessive. So here are the attached pronouns. You have e, cha, ech, or ach. Here, depending on what it attaches to, we'll take either ech or ach. Down here, o, and here, ah. Note here that you have a dot in the hey. This is not a dagesh because hey is a guttural letter, which can't take a dagesh. This dot is called a mapik, and it marks this hey as a consonant hey, not as a vowel letter, kametz hey. And this is important because what we've seen so far is kametz hey is the default feminine singular ending for nouns, adjectives, or participles. With this dot, 90% of the time it's marking this as the attached pronoun. Now, this chart of attached pronouns is not something that we're going to make you memorize. Our bet is after lots of exposure, because these attached pronouns can basically attach to anything. So you're going to see lots of charts. You're going to hear it a lot. You're just going to encounter it a lot. Over time, we know you're just going to get it. But if you want to at the front end memorize, go for it. Here's an example of these attached pronouns on a preposition. Whenever a pronoun attaches to the preposition, it always functions as the object of that preposition, which is why we have this translated to me. So, saying to me is li, to you, a guy, lecha, to you, a woman, lach, to him, lo, to her, la. And notice here you have the dot, that mapik, which marks it as the attached pronoun to her. Let's close by looking how these attached pronouns attach to ein. Here's the chart. Now, whenever an attached pronoun connects to ein, its function is not as object, but actually as subject of that statement. So here, eineni is I am not. Eincha is you, a guy, are not. Einech You girl are not. Einenu, he is not. And einena, she is not. Notice here there is no mapik in the he. What this shows is that you can have the feminine singular third person attached pronoun that does not have a mapik in the he. But if there is a mapik in the he, 90% of the time that's going to be marking that as the attached pronoun. Let's look at some examples. 16, saying einena gedola, you would say it, some singular thing that is feminine, is not big. And 17, einenu yoshev, he is not sitting. Notice here, 16, as before, ein can negate a predicate adjective, and in 17, ein can negate a participle. Those are the two kinds of statements that ein is used to negate. That's it for today's lecture. If you want to access more resources on internalizing the language of Scripture, go to www.picturehebrew.com.